Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Colby and today we're going to be looking at Microsoft Teams. So if you're not familiar with Microsoft Teams is Microsoft's communication collaboration platform where it's a single pane of glass essentially that allows you to do video conferencing, do one-on-one or group chats, screen recording, as well as access a variety of different applications and collaborate together with your teammates. So we're just going to be kind of doing a high top level type look at Microsoft Teams, and then in some follow-up videos I'll be kind of diving deeper into certain portions of Microsoft Teams. So I'm just going to drag this down a little so it's in view. But this is what the main interface of Microsoft Teams looks like. This is the desktop app. There is also a browser app that looks very similar to this. There are some drawbacks though. Certain browsers don't support the call feature, so just be aware of that if you're using the browser version. But yeah, they're very similar feel and look if you're playing with both. So the first thing you're going to notice when you're in the Teams app is the rail on the left here. And so this is kind of where you'll be interacting with this area a lot, kind of clicking into these different screens, as well as being able to what they call pin. So pin a app to the rail. So you can basically put an app in on the rail here if you want to quickly access it without having to find it each time. So by default, this is sort of what it'll look like. This can be customized in the admin center as well as customized by yourself. So you see if I right click on calls, for instance, I have the ability to unpin that if I want to. So you can play around with it and customize it to your liking. So the first page we're going to look at before we start exploring other things is the activity area. And so you'll notice when I get notifications, they'll be highlighted in this on the activity icon. So if I go ahead and click that, I'll be presented with a feed of different notifications that are being sent to me. And these could be notifications sent because someone mentioned me in something. So for instance, you'll notice my account, YouTube Power Apps. It's been mentioned a few times by this mod administrator individual. And so they've gone ahead and tagged me in some of these posts. And so that'll show up. Each time I go and click on these, they'll highlight where I've been tagged. And so it's just a super easy way of kind of looking at your main notifications. Bear in mind you can kind of change how your notifications are shown in here by playing around with the settings. So you could make it so that you're notified of all the areas that all the teams that you're involved in. If you don't know what teams are yet, I'll go into detail, but yeah, this is kind of like a great way of getting an idea of your main feed coming in. The next area, which is pretty straightforward, is just chat. So this is where you're going to be doing one-on-one chats with individuals. So you'll notice on the left here, these are the different chats. So I've only got one chat right now, but I could go ahead and create different chats with different individuals. So here I've gone ahead and clicked this new chat and I'm typing to, and I can do multiple people, right? So I can add multiple people to the chat, and then I can say, hey there. And this will get sent to all those people in the chat. So it's pretty nice to have that. Another feature you'll notice directly in the chat are these options at the top here. And so actually I have that other user open, so I got a notification from it. So up here we've got three options. The first being to start a video call. The second is just a normal audio call. And then the third option is just to do a screen share. So you could do a screen share without having to talk to people if you wanted to, but you can also do a screen share directly in the call itself. There are options. All right, so these are Teams, and this is kind of what Microsoft Teams is known for. This is where the collaboration front comes in. This is where you're going to be collaborating with all your colleagues, and whether it be sharing files or having some type of personal wiki to share information. So I've got this Teams right over here called Sales and Marketing, and you'll notice under that there are these other kind of sub areas, if you will, and these are called channels. So in each team you have a variety of channels, and channels can be customized to your liking. Generally when you create a team, it always comes with this general channel, and then all the channels on top of that are your own custom channels. So you'll notice in this general channel, which I have selected right here, there are, at the top here, there are these tabs. And so these tabs are, most of these tabs can be customized. The ones that come default to the channel itself is this Post tabs and the Files tab. And so the Files tab is essentially any files that are shared in that channel, and the Posts area of the channel is just where general posts can be made. So I can go ahead down here and click New Conversation, and I could make some posts. So maybe I say at, so at being I'm directing it to a certain individual, and say maybe I want to chat to Lynn Robbins, and I want to say how is that proposal coming along, right? And so that's going to fire off a notification to Lynn in this channel. And so maybe Murian, for instance, would like to weigh in on that. And so because this is kind of public to this team, everyone who's added to this team can come and make some comments on what I have to say. So it's a great way of kind of making things more public, but still very centralized to this particular set of individuals, right? This team. So it's not going to like your whole organization, for instance, right? We're just focusing on, this is just sales and marketing in this particular example. There's another tab that you can add called Wiki. And so this is just like a custom kind of wiki page that you can customize. So you can create pages and then sections in it. It's very basic style wiki, but it can be very powerful. Say there's certain things that you want people to reference continuously. This is a great way of doing that. And then these other tabs over here, these are all custom tabs. So a lot of these are actually my Power Apps that I've created. Actually, in this example, the Power App's no longer live because the environment expired. But you can add Power Apps, you can add a variety of tabs, and to do that, it's super easy. So you just click this Add to Tab, and you get presented with these different apps that you can add. So whether it be a SharePoint list that you'd like to add, or a Power BI report that you feel like you could showcase some sales data. It could be a Power App, right, that you want them to interact with. Or maybe it's just a simple OneNote. Maybe you have weekly meetings and you take notes in those meetings and you want to share them with the team. This can be a great way of doing that. Just pinning it as a tab. All right, so that kind of gives you a rundown of the kind of look and feel of a team and the channels. Now there's different ways that you can manage your channels. So if you hover over one of these teams, you'll see this more options, these 3 dots. And so you can do different things. You can manage your team. You could add a channel. So if you wanted to add another channel. So let's go ahead and try add a channel. So let's let's say we wanted to add a channel called weekly meetings, because we want to have weekly meetings to kind of discuss the current sales projections for our organization. And so you give your channel a name. In my case, I call it weekly meetings. You can add a description. That is an optional field. And then you get this option of privacy. So first is standard. So that means that anyone who has access to that team can access that channel. And then there's private. So private is only accessed by people that you want to invite. So this allows you to break up your teams into smaller teams, if you will. So, sales and marketing could be a huge group of people. Maybe you've got a certain set of your sales individuals that are focusing on something, say a client, for instance. You could put them in a certain channel that pertains to that client and label as private, and only add that set group of people. So we're going to keep ours as standard. We're going to hit add. When you add that, it's going to take a few seconds, and then it generates your kind of base template of a channel. And so again, I think I'd mentioned that posts and files are in there. Wiki is also added automatically into that. And so that kind of creates your channel, and that's essentially it. Another way, I obviously showed you how to create a channel, but now maybe we want to be able to manage our team as a whole. So if you go to the more options and you click on manage team, this is the area where you're going to be able to manage your team. So you will have the ability, there'll always be owners of a team, and then there's members and guests of that team. So owners will have their roles, will allow them to do more things in the team, whereas members and guests won't have as much power over what they can do. So for instance, and you can govern this in your in the admin center, but for instance, probably don't want a general member to be able to delete a team, right? So that type of thing, when it comes to members and guests, they can't just go and delete a team. You could create some policies around not allowing anyone that isn't an owner to create a channel if you want. These are features that you can play with in custom policies, and we'll hopefully look at that in another video. But this is kind of the bare bones and basics of doing the admin side of your team. You can go ahead and click on the channels tab, and this is where you can see all the different channels that are active, as well as there's a section where it shows you any channels that have been deleted. And you'll notice this check mark, so it'll say show for me. So say I'm not interested in monthly reports, I can deselect that, and it'll actually hide it for me, and it'll show me that there's a hidden channel here. And if I click on that, you'll see it right here. And I can even say show from here. As well as it'll show you what the type it is. So if it's standard or private, right? And again, you can go ahead and you could delete your channel from here and do some things like getting links to channel, etc. And then there's an area of analytics. So this just kind of gives you a breakdown of how many users are active in the team, how many apps are used in this team. You could break it down by channel. Say I'm only interested in looking at general. Maybe I want to look at the past 90 days and get an idea of how many posts, replies, mentions, and reactions there are in that team, right? So this is a great way of seeing the types of engagement that your team's getting. Maybe you're finding that there's a team that is just totally dead. Like say, for instance, this team, it's in the past 30 days, there's been no activity. Then maybe you need to either revisit if that team makes sense anymore, or where is everyone else engaging for your sales and marketing, and trying to get them to kind of come back into this area. So this is just a great way of doing that. All right. So if I go back into my manage team, I also have the ability to look at my apps. And so these are all different types of apps that have been added to this team. And so you can delete them, uninstall them if you want to. You could also click on more apps, and you can look at a variety of other apps that you could add. There's a huge selection of different apps in here, whether that be from Microsoft or third-party applications. And so you can search for them if you want in the search box. There's also the ability to look at any apps that are part of your organization. In this, it'll say built for and then the organization name. So in our case, we're part of Contoso. Right. So that kind of gives you an idea of what Teams is. So just remember, you have your teams, which you can think of as a big group, right? And then you've got your channels, which are subsections of the teams. And so this is just an area where your colleagues and individuals in your organization can come together and collaborate on a variety of different goals. All right, so the next section on here is the calendar. So calendar, pretty straightforward, right? This is just showcasing your current calendar. There's a variety of views that you can play with. So if I click on down here, I can go into different weeks and look at the different weeks. I can also on the right hand corner here break it up into day, work week, or just general week. And so this is a great way of just getting, I personally like the week view, or the work week view actually, because it just gives me a quick look. I can quickly see, okay, what are my meetings that I have today or tomorrow, and kind of plan my way around that. In here you have two options. So there's this meet now. Meet now is essentially, if I click that, it'll start a meeting right now. And I can go ahead and give that a name, and then I can manually add people to that meeting. Or you can schedule a meeting. So if you click the new meeting, there are two options in the drop down. So you can either schedule a meeting or do a live event. And so live events are great for if you want to do something that's more outside of your organization. You're presenting a major event for other people from the public that want to access. This is a great way of doing that. But we're not going to do a live event. We're just going to look at a general meeting. So if I click new meeting, I'm presented with this view. And so what you get to do is you get to type in, the first field is your meeting title. Then the second, so if you're familiar with creating meeting events in Microsoft Outlook, then this should look very familiar to you. It's very similar kind of look and feel. You type in your attendees. So maybe I'm going to be inviting Megan Bowen to this. If you click on the first calendar area here, this is the day that you want to start it. So let's say on the 23rd at 10:30 a.m. So it's a 30-minute meeting. We're going to have a meeting with Megan. And so what's really cool is you can actually see, once you've entered that, you'll even get some suggested meeting times. So what this is doing is it's looking at your calendar as well as the attendees' calendar and seeing if there's some times that you could fit in. And say you want to do it manually, you don't want to use the suggested times, there's this other tab called Scheduling Assistant. And if you click in there, you'll actually see all your attendees, kind of their calendar as well as yours, and you can get an idea of what they're doing and what you're doing. In our case, it's actually hidden, So they haven't allowed me to view their calendar, but if that was allowed in your organization, you can get an idea of if they're busy or not. All right, so going back here, the next option we have is if we want this event to repeat. So maybe this is a weekly event or a monthly event, or you can even customize it to your liking, that you want it to repeat over and over again. You can do that. You can also add this to a channel. So maybe you want to, this is a weekly event that you want. Let's just say this is a weekly event that we want my sales and marketing. Okay. So I'm actually going to rename this. We're going to say this weekly sales meeting. In terms of location, we're just going to keep this purely online. We're not going to make this physical location. And for description, maybe we'll say this is the weekly sales meeting, right? I don't know. You can play around with that. There's obviously some different options here. You know, if you want to play around with the text, make it look a little prettier, you have these options to play around with formatting. And once you're happy, you can hit send. One more thing to point out, there's also this time zone area. So, say you're interested in booking a meeting with someone on the East Coast. You could set it to their time if you want to look at East Coast time, and book it that way. All right, so we're going to hit send. And then you'll notice right over here in my calendar, it's just loading for a bit here, but my meeting invite has been created, or is being created right now. And so, yeah, you'll notice every time you create a meeting or get invited to one, that'll pop up right over there. The next portion that we have here is the calls area. And so this is where you can make like general calls to people, as well as view any history that you might have had. So you can create speed dials for individuals that you're contacting constantly, just like any normal phone. Maybe you want to have a group, contact group that you have easily at hand to contact. You can do that as well. You can go into your contacts area. So right now I have no contacts, but if your organization syncs all the employees together, you might notice all your employees show up here, or you can add your own contacts if you want as well. Any history that you might have. So if anyone calls you, that's what it'll show up here in your history, and you'll get an idea of how long the call was, as well as voicemail. So if your organization has set up voicemail for you, you can get your voicemail here, as well as some transcripts to that. And the final area that we have here is the files area. And so this is going to kind of show you any recent files that you might have been playing around with, some Teams files, which you'll notice there was this one file that I got tagged in recently, this statement of work, that showed up, and there's a bunch of other ones that have been showed up that I've been linked to in some way or other, whether that be through a Teams channel or someone sharing it through a private chat. They'll show up here, right? And you can even see the location of where that's coming from. And so if you right click, you also get some different options of playing around with that particular document or file. And then downloads. So if you've made any downloads from Teams, this is where it's going to show up in here. And it gives you the option to open the downloads folder once you've downloaded that file. So for instance, let's just say I go into here and I say download this statement of work because I know I need to work on it. By going back into my downloads, you'll notice that it's been downloaded. And so I can open my downloads folder and go view it. And then you also have the ability to view your OneDrive. So if you've got any OneDrive documents in your OneDrive folders, they'll show up in here. And if you feel like you want to add another cloud storage, you can do so here. If you click that button, Microsoft Teams supports Dropbox, Box, Ignite, ShareFile, and Google Drive. So if you've got any cloud drives in those with those services, you can add those as well to your teams. And finally, the one thing that the Rail has on here is this more options area. So these are any apps that you might have that are not on your Rail, but you've installed. They'll show up over here. So let's say I want Planner, or actually I want OneNote to be there. If you right click on it and you say pin, you'll notice OneNote shows up here. And so I can go now and click on that, and my OneNote notebooks will show up. And at the bottom here, you have your apps. And so this again, you know, I already kind of showed you what this area is, but this is just where if you want to install any apps, whether they be Microsoft apps or third-party apps, they'll show up in here. So, you know, here's, for instance, the Microsoft Flow app. If I wanted to add it, there's some options. You can either add it for yourself or you can add it to a team. I'm just going to add it for myself. And so you'll notice I clicked on it and it's now installed the app ready. And so I can do you know, a variety of different things in this particular app that pertain to Microsoft Power Automate. So hopefully you found that informative. Next time I hope to look at some other topics from focusing on Microsoft Teams. So kind of diving more deep into some of these areas in Microsoft Teams, as well as customizing it a little more. So yeah, really make sure you subscribe so that you can catch me in those videos. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya, bye.